How's it going, Phil Buffs? It's Straight Shooter. Welcome to another episode of How I See It. I'm at Team Sound Studios, you probably guessed, and I'm doing another Red Band spoiler review for the new Clint Eastwood movie, Richard Jewell. So, Richard Jewell is about Richard Jewell. End of review. No, I'm kidding. So, for people that don't know, Richard Jewell was the person that found the bomb in 1996 at the Olympics in Atlanta, and the bomb still went off, but because he spotted it in time and got people away from it, he mitigated a lot of damage, and even though a couple lives were lost, a lot more could have been lost. Somewhere along the line, they decided, well, he fits the profile of the one that might actually have planted the bomb, so the FBI were investigating him, and that's pretty much the story as you know it. The movie pretty much tells it that way, with a little bit of liberties taken. The movie stars, I don't know who the lead guy is that played Richard Jewell. He must be unknown outside of this movie. John Hamm plays Agent Shaw, the lead FBI investigator. Olivia Wilde plays Katie Scruggs, the reporter who broke the story. Sam Rockwell plays Richard Jewell's lawyer. Kathy Bates plays his mom. So it's a pretty good cast. And it was directed by Clint Eastwood, and he has been having a pretty good string of movies as of late. I already reviewed The Mule. $1 Million Baby was a really good movie, and he seems to be on a hot streak. And it's pretty impressive for a guy that's in his 80s now. Been acting since a long time ago, the old westerns and stuff like that. He decided to take on this movie probably because he remembers it very well. Most people that were alive during that time remember it pretty well. I remember the Olympics in 96. The bombing, I have a little bit of memory. I remember hearing that there was a bomb, but I didn't really hear much about it other than that. And honestly, I didn't know much about the story of Richard Jewell and everything that happened. So everything that happened in the movie was pretty much new to me, but I looked up and did some research after the fact. So we follow the character, well, not the character because he's a real life person, but we follow him, and he's trying to get a job as a security person or a police officer, and his employers notice that he's a little bit odd because he's very straight and narrow, he's very no nonsense. What gets him done in is the fact that he worked for a college, and the dean fired him because he didn't overlook the students hanging out in their dorm room drinking, and when they started with him, he fought back. I guess what the movie was trying to say was that colleges tend to overlook student behavior, and he wasn't willing to overlook it. And it plays into later on because when he finds out about him finding the bomb, he calls the FBI in and says, you know, the guy's unstable, blah, 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 and that's all the FBI needs is to find a suspect and nail him and say, that's the fucking guy. And that's pretty much how it happens. There's also this relationship between the lead FBI investigator and the reporter that broke the story. There's like a sexual thing going on there. The lawyer is this guy that Richard used to work with at a firm, and he was the supply guy. They formed a bond or whatever. Later he calls him because the FBI call him in, and he ends up representing him. I don't think I need to go into too much of the plot beyond that, because obviously most people probably know, or I'll just tell you anyway, that he didn't go to trial. They end up dismissing the charges because they had no evidence, and they ended up years down the line catching the guy who actually planted the bomb. There were a lot of things about the movie that seemed kind of odd to me. Not a lot of things, but some things. One of the most odd things is that the FBI leaned on him. And the lead investigator even admitted that he knew that there was no way he could have planted the bomb or made the call to 911. But he didn't care. He still thought he was guilty. He just kept on because I guess the FBI needed a suspect and they didn't have a suspect other than him. Why would the FBI, frankly, be so fucking dumb? If you look at Richard Jewell's life, he's not the kind of guy that would commit a crime, let alone an act of terrorism. All someone would need is 5 minutes alone talking to the guy and they would be convinced of that. For some reason, the FBI wasn't. And in the end, of course, they had nothing on him anyway. Okay, and that was another thing that I said whatever to, was he made this whole speech about you guys. I used to look at you guys and think you're law and order. You're people that I look up to because you're above the police department. And he says, but after this, I don't respect you guys anymore, and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, okay. It's like, it all seemed like it was working too conveniently, and that's where they took a lot of liberties with the plot. Because first of all, it wasn't just one guy that represented him. It was a team of lawyers. And they really had to work because the FBI were pretty sure that they had their man. It wasn't just because they didn't have anything on him that he got off. It was because he had a team of lawyers that exonerated him and said, there's this and there's that, and this is all circumstantial, and all of this stuff. I thought the movie was good. I thought it had good performances. It was an entertaining movie, and it's a drama, so it's hard to make a drama entertaining, but you feel for Richard Jewell's character and what he's going through, because it does not paint the U.S. government in a very good light by saying this is obviously the guy when it obviously isn't. I think that's my biggest problem, is that how could the Federal Bureau of Investigation try to pin something on a guy that has no history with violence or crime or anything like that. Always been a straight and narrow. Okay, he's a little bit odd. He's in his 30s. He lives with his mom. Whatever. And, and he had a friend that they used to make little pipe bombs and, blow up little animal holes or whatever. But that's not like an act of terrorism, like planting a bomb at the Olympics where there's scores of people. It seems like the plot of the movie was written by someone. Like, if you didn't know that it was a true story, you would probably go into the movie and say, wow, that was a good movie. He really stuck it to the FBI and stuff like that. But knowing that it's a true story kind of makes it feel like, okay, come on. The FBI was really that dumb, and it was one guy that helped him get off, and he just makes a speech and he walks out of the FBI and they can't do anything. Because the government, if they're going to prosecute someone, they not only make sure that they have the guy, they make sure they have enough evidence to go to trial, they make sure they have enough evidence to prosecute, and they make sure that not only will he be prosecuted, but he'll have a hefty jail sentence. They weren't sure of anything, and they were leaning on this guy. So I don't know. I think that there was a lot more to the story of the legalities than they're telling, because the way it flowed, I don't know, it just didn't seem very believable to me. But if you take all that away, yes, it was a good movie. It was well directed. It was well acted. I just think maybe too many liberties with the story. But overall, I'd say it's worth seeing, and I would give the movie a B. But, that's how I see it, and you're going to want to stay tuned for our next one because my first review of a franchise that I've been a big fan of since I was a kid. Stay tuned. See ya in a bit.